So today I have quite a few things that I'm going to be showing in this video, but first I want to stop and I need to make breakfast for my kids, and it is almost in the thick of harvest season in our garden, so I always have to think something fast, healthy, easy for my kids to eat for breakfast. So this morning we are making some muffins, which these muffins honestly need to probably sit and completely cool, but I did not have time this morning. So this day we had to harvest a lot of green beans, and that takes a lot of time. So we were trying to get out as early as possible. So I'm up early trying to get these muffins done before the kids wake up, and we're gonna just try to eat these really fast and get out to the garden so all of us can start harvesting our green beans for the year. This is our very first harvest for the season, and I'm expecting quite a bit out of this harvest. So I'm trying to get everybody fueled this morning so we can go out there and have the energy to pick all of these green beans this morning. So this is just a really healthy breakfast muffin. There's nothing special to it. There's not too much sugar in it, which I put a little bit of honey in it just to kind of sweeten it just a little bit, but honestly it doesn't call for any honey. So basically what's in here is just a mashed banana, peanut butter, vanilla extract, egg, some rolled oats, and baking powder. And this day I had some extra sourdough discard, so I just put that in here just because I had it. So I literally just put it in one big bowl and mix everything together, and it's just that simple. So like I said, it's just a simple, easy, fast breakfast because gardening season is hitting really hard right now, and I really need to get breakfast done. So I doubled this recipe this morning just because I have 4 kids. So basically, I just put them into muffin liners and then bake them off. And then, of course, they're supposed to be completely cooled, which this day I didn't let them completely cool. And you're going to see at the very end of this clip of these muffins that they were kind of stuck to the paper. So they definitely need to completely cool at room temperature, and then they'll be a lot easier to peel off. So that was definitely my fault, but we were in a hurry and this was fast and easy, so I just kind of had to roll with what we had. And I will link this recipe down in the description below. It's super simple, and you can either put warm melted butter on top at the very end, or like we like to do is a pure maple syrup. And you can either warm up the muffin or just literally just drizzle the maple syrup on top. So my kids really like these. They're not really that great if you don't put syrup or butter on top of them because they're healthy. They're a healthy muffin. There's no bad ingredients inside of these muffins, and there's natural sugars in here, but not enough to sweeten it up. That's why you need the maple syrup or the butter to put on top. So I'm just really grateful that the kids really like these. They're super simple and super easy to make. So you can see here that they didn't come out of the wrapper very well just because they were warm, but we had to eat really quick and get out there. So this is what they look like. Not the best looking right now, but if you let them cool, they look so much better. So this year we put out a big towel in our living room, got all the green beans down there, and I put on a Disney movie, which we watched White Fang 2, and honestly, the green bean snapping went very quickly watching that movie. So all the kids were involved. My husband took a nap, so we all got the green beans snapped, and then by the time he woke up from his nap, he started the canner up and set in front of the canner for us while I cleaned up the house. So I'm really grateful we got 13 quarts for our first round. So here in a couple days, probably 4 days maybe, we'll do our next picking of green beans. And I think that might just get us. We might stop there. We'll see how much green beans we get out of our second harvest. Then I'll just let the plants produce more green beans. And then I will let those completely dry out because those will be my beans that I will plant next year. So you can see here that we have green beans left over from last year, so we're going to have quite a bit of green beans for winter, so I'm not too worried about that. And then same with our carrots right here. These were from last year, and we canned up a bunch of carrots a couple weeks ago, so we got quite a bit of carrots, quite a bit of green beans so far, and then we're going to be working on our pickles soon. So you can see all these empty jars ready to be canned, so we're going to be working on a bunch of stuff coming up. We got peppers to can, we got pickles to can, we got tomato sauce to can, so we got quite a bit coming up to can still. I'm going to be filling up this cabinet for too long, and I think this is probably going to be like the biggest harvest we've ever done, and I'm so happy that our garden's doing really well. So I don't know if some of you saw my potato planting, but I didn't plant as many potatoes as I wanted to this year just because my potatoes don't last very long because I don't have a proper way to store them. Usually whenever we start putting the heat on in the fall, it starts getting really hot in my house and the potatoes start rotting really fast. So I just planted a few this year just because my kids love to harvest them, which you can tell in this, only one kid came out to harvest these potatoes, which is totally fine. This is my best sidekick. He's the best helper in the garden, which they all are, but I didn't do too many potatoes this year, but we will definitely eat what we have here. This will probably last us, honestly, probably a month or 2 months. Super proud of this harvest. And then we started harvesting our onions. I've noticed that some of them were flopped over, not all of them, but I went ahead and just harvested all of the onions just because I noticed some of them were starting to rot and get gooey on some of them. We've just been getting so much rain, so I was just like, you know what, let's just go ahead and harvest all of these. And I took them into the garage and I came up with a new solution this year. So I had some old fencing that were kind of just scrap pieces, and I ended up tying them together and made a big circle. And this actually is going to work out perfect this year, so I'm really happy of how this turned out. I took some twine and I tied up the green tops of the onions, and you can see this in the clip coming up. I needed to think of something quick, and this is what I came up with, and it just works out perfect. So I think I'm going to continue to do this every year because I can get quite a bit of onions on here. And I ended up tying some fold-out chairs to each side so it can be really sturdy and the whole thing wouldn't fall over because it does get pretty heavy. So I'm just going to let these dry for 2 to 4 weeks until they're completely dry. And I'm going to keep a box fan on them to keep them continually to have airflow on them because this is in a garage. My garlic is actually almost dry, so I'm going to be cutting up the garlic and then the fan can be fully on the onions. So I always have really good luck with my yellow onions storing the longest. Usually my white onions and for sure my purple onions do not last very long, so I try to grow more yellow onions every year just because they store a lot longer. So the type of onion that you can grow, it just depends on where you live. So there's a short day onion, long day onion, and then an intermediate day onion. So you just kind of need to look where your zone is and look at the varieties to see what best grows in your zone. I messed up when I first started gardening. I always grew the wrong onions, so I never had really good luck until, you know, you get more experience and you learn more about different vegetables. So once I figured that out, and onions are kind of hard to grow big bulbs on, so you got to start them super early so you can get those really big bulbs. Onions also like to be fertilized. That is another thing that you have to keep up on to get the big bulbs also. And you have to start really early in spring to get your onions started. Around January, February. A lot of people actually go even earlier than that. But again, it's just the type of onion you're growing and what zone you're in. So I just continued to hang all of these up, and I filled basically this whole entire thing up, and it got really heavy, so I put those chairs on each side to kind of sturdy it. And I'm just going to let them dry a couple weeks, and then I'll just cut the green tops off, which they'll be dead in a couple weeks, and then I'll just store them into my little pantry that I have inside. And I'll just use them fresh, or a lot of these actually will be going into some of my tomato sauce. I plan to make a lot of tomato sauce this year, so I'm grateful to have a lot of that this year. So I mentioned this before, I always plant my leeks on the outskirts of my onion bed. So once the onions get pulled, the leeks have all the room to grow after I pull all of those, because leeks need a long time to grow. So now I should start seeing really good growth on these leeks now that the onions are out. So the next day we got back to picking our second round of green beans, and we got quite a bit on this picking, which I'm really surprised. Usually the second picking we don't get that many, but we actually got quite a bit. And what we're going to do is leave the plants in place. We're not going to do any more canning after this picking. We're just going to let the beans dry on the plants, and that will be our seeds for next year. And I still have quite a bit of seeds from last year when we did this, but it just keeps my stockpile up. And if I want to just give any away to family and friends, I'll give them some. So I think this is going to be our last round of canning green beans, because I had some from last year, and we're going to have quite a bit of quarts of green beans. So pretty excited about that. And then I started cutting some of my basil. I noticed that it was getting ready to start flowering, so I really needed to cut a lot of this. I grew a bunch of basil right here in this area where the peppers, and I have 2 little tomato plants in this row. So I'm just cutting this, and I usually just wash it and I put it in the dehydrator on the front porch because it gets really strong smell, and usually strong smells usually give me a headache, so I usually put on the front porch to dehydrate. And then we were almost too late harvesting our little peaches that we had this year. We only had 3, so like a couple of years ago we had 1 peach, but I think the squirrel got it. So this is the very first time we're trying our peaches this year. So excited about that. So this was our harvest this day. We had tons of cucumbers, 3 peaches, squash, basil, and all these green beans. Pretty good harvest today. So I had the dehydrator going on the front porch, and then I got back to snapping green beans, which takes forever, which is totally fine. I didn't have my little helpers this time. It was just me snapping the green beans. They had other things they wanted to do. And then we started canning them up as soon as I was done snapping them, just so we can be fully done with green beans for the year, because we still have quite a bit of stuff to can after this, since the green beans will be done. So by the time the dehydrator was going for a couple hours, my basil was done, and then I put it in a food processor to grind it all down, and then I just put it into a mason jar, and then put a lid and a ring on it, and I label it, and then I put it down into a dark cabinet until I just use it. So we ended with 26 quarts of green beans this year, which is awesome, and I still have some from last year, so we are really good for winter.